Let's take you live now to Boksburg. That's where Panyanza Lesufi, the Gauteng Premier, is speaking.
4 that are in critical condition, and the other 11 people that are in various wards will be visiting the hospital now after we leave here. The cause is indeed something that only professionals and experts can explicitly explain it, but it's quite clear it's a gas cylinder. I've seen it, and there were others that were still on the scene. Yes. I hope the forensic teams have removed them, because I was very, very worried that they may also explode, because there were quite a couple of them. So we want, on behalf of government, both national government, provincial government and local government, extend our sincere condolences to the family, to all the families that are affected. It's a tragic event, and we're asking ourselves, it's the second time that we come to this area of Boksburg with something similar to this. So at least we've learned from the previous blast. So our systems, I must be honest, this time were on par, and they responded the way we advised them, and the lessons we've learned from the previous explosion. We just need, it's a difficult area here. We just need to find a way of accounting for everyone and getting the necessary data, just to be sure indeed the numbers that we have are the actual numbers. Because when we were here last night, because that area is surrounded by many informal settlements, so you don't know, there might be other people inside the house that you have inhaled, because we don't have the capacity and the system to. So I've asked the team just to be sure, but I'm glad the feedback that we have not found reports of somebody that is missing or reports of somebody that is passed on. So we are strongly monitoring the situation. We keep our eye. We've asked our experts to remain here, and then we'll meet with the community leaders just to check what are the things that they need us to do.
Sure. Premier, I am from Newzroom Afrika. It's an all too familiar sight. Many people will say it's actually the same script with just a different cast. Yeah. Illegal mining in the country being so pervasive and ultimately costing lives. I mean, the residents who we've spoken to here say it's known that this area has illegal mining activities, but sadly, we only respond when the worst thing has happened, when people die.
I've said it, and I've presented it to those that are leading our law enforcement capabilities. We are using outdated law enforcement mechanism in a new era, that new form of law enforcement. They've painted. And I know people are saying bring the army. The process of bringing the army in this country, it's a prolonged process. The president must announce, must go to cabinet, opposition parties must comment. The budget must be approved by a certain committee in parliament, and when they come, those army, they escort the police and are part of the activities. We just have to overhaul our law enforcement response. This thing of illegal mining is completely out of control. We've said it. So I share your frustration. Actually, I'm frustrated. I'm of the view that we just need a specialized way of training our law enforcement. They try. I mean, yesterday they briefed us how they themselves comes under attack, how the firepower of the illegal miners and the resources that they have, that they feel that is not appropriately coordinated, or the support systems are not at the level that they can confront these things. No one disputes that. And I agree with you. Now that we've got 16 people that have died, we'll say the same thing, but I'm of this, and it's not this only. How many people are kidnapped in our province literally every day? How many people are killed on highways? How many people are kidnapped in their own houses, robbed and things? So if as a province, and with the support of national government, if we can't confront crime, lawlessness and corruption head on, and have the resources that are needed to deal with this thing, I'm not going to. I mean, we have put 4 billion rands as a province just to fight crime. It's not enough. We want to increase it to almost 8 billion. But we can't do that because the laws, the limitations, the thing provinces can do, the thing local government can do, the thing national government can do. But if we don't have a coordinated approach to confront this lawlessness, I mean, it's not this area. You go to Florida, you go to Western. I mean, there are areas even here where The roads were completely closed because we couldn't go to other areas. There are no-go areas. So I share your frustration,
sure,
more than you can even express it, because we are dealing with this situation literally every day. And I'm calling for a complete new strategy in confronting this thing. A strategy that is well-resourced, and the capabilities of our law enforcement agencies that are at the higher level, and the need to respond in a manner that is if you are in a war zone. The figures indicate that you are under siege, and we have to respond.
Sure. Premier, could we just ask, in terms of those gas cylinders, have they been removed? What's the process in terms of removing those gas cylinders to ensure that doesn't happen? And then also, second question, could you just give an update on the status of those in hospital? I'm not sure if you did already, just what's going on.
We are guided by forensic teams because it's still a crime scene, so they needed to balance the two of ensuring that they gather the evidence, possibly for an inquest that is going to be opened, but also they needed to save lives. So where we are of the view that they've done that. They've tried to ensure that those cylinders that are still there cannot either explode or they cannot harm people further. So we'll get the report, because last night when we left here, or early hours of this morning when we left here, they were still working on those issues. So we'll get that report. In terms of those that are injured, I said 4 are critical. Unfortunately, one passed on last night. That's why the figures now 17 are still, they still need immediate medical assistance, but the others that they think they will be discharged later on today.
Another question to have from News 24. What's your response to allegation that those gas cylinders were stolen from a nearby field, and how many have you retrieved as the department?
I don't have that information. I think we're just on rescuing lives last night. We are only we can include that aspect immediately, because we're going to be briefed by law enforcement agencies, and I can check that information.
Premier, I'd like to ask, those that passed on, did any of them include Zamazama?
I don't have the profile. Whether they are. The scene was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking. I regretted why we have to go through that scene. It was heartbreaking. So it's something that we might need assistance personally, because it was the bodies were scattered literally everywhere. And I want to thank our team, because they know exactly where each body was. And they know exactly how that particular body arrived where it was. So I thought initially it was just an explosion in one area, but you can see people were running away from the scene, and then they started to fall as they trying to get areas where they can escape.
You know, the devastation you described, Premier, is still palpable this morning. We've got people, part of our team, who are there. People have lost brothers, husbands, you name it. And there's questions about what happens for them next. I mean, you know, it's hard to believe that they'll be expected to stay here, given what's happened, and given how that gas may still very well still be, you know, lingering somewhere and pose a threat to their lives.
Well, the issue of human settlement in our province, and we don't have to blame people that are coming to our areas, in particular to our province. I always say to our people and those that are doing human settlement planning, I don't hate people that wants to come to our area. Actually, I really believe we should appreciate that. It means we're doing something good, we're creating opportunities and other things. We just have to manage the informal settlement. And I'm glad at the state of the city, the mayor outlined what we have outlined as a province. But the priority of this government that one has the honor to lead is to improve townships, informal settlements and hostels. We've placed that on record. But if you can improve our townships that are deteriorating, you can improve our informal settlements the way they are. These informal settlements are not fit for human consumption. We just have to put resources as government on how best to do it. And the problem that we have is not a solution that must come from the West, and it must come from us. So we need architectures that can say, how do we develop an area when people are still staying there? Do we have those expertise? And we've been hunting for those expertise, because this area, people want to be here and they want to stay here, and we have to develop, and they're still here. There's a problem of water, there's a problem of electricity, there's a problem of sanitation, and the problem of safety. So I share all this frustration, but we've got plans. The teams are working on our best to improve our informal settlements and our hostels.
Cold consolation, though, Premier, for people who, again, this is not new. This is not something that started yesterday, and in some instances, they feel like they've been trying to raise it for quite some time. It took this devastation for you to be here.
It's a collective responsibility that I duly accept, the one that comes from government. I mean, people are doing an illegal activity here, inside, not in a secluded area, in the middle of where people stay. So I don't think that we should have encouraged that. And that is why I'm saying the law enforcement agencies, the people that are involved there, we should have stopped that. But I don't want to apportion blame. I don't want to hide behind a broomstick as government. We have a share of our responsibility that we should shoulder, and we should confront it head on and confront this community. That's why I'm prepared even to meet with the community leaders. We can't just leave it. But as I said, law enforcement agencies are the only sector that can assist us to ensure that we push back this kind of activities. And we need firepower. I can tell you, we need firepower. And firepower from the air, firepower from technology, satellites. We have to, if people get out of those illegal mines and come to the surface, we need to have technology that can pick them up. And we need to have the firepower from the law enforcement agencies to push back those people. And we need to know where these activities are taking place and go there and close them down. And we can't do that with a naked eye and do that with the kind of resources that we have. This situation has gone beyond the capable or the capacity or the resources that we have to fight this thing. We need a new thinking. And I've said it. We just have to overhaul our law enforcement strategies from dealing with this Zama.
And to be clear, Premier, you're saying government currently is unable to relocate some of the
resources to confront it and the strategies to confront it. They are there, but I mean, if, as you said, it's the same script every time you come. It's and I mean, you check what people of Diepsloot are saying. The challenges that are having in Diepsloot, and it's not Diepsloot alone. You go to every community. This kind of crime is creating problems. So how are we resourced as government? We are putting 4.5 billion as Gauteng on the table. We are not just because we know we need technology, and we know we need cars, and we know we need human capability. We know we need all these things. But you can't do that if we are not coordinating our efforts as government. But I don't want to sound as if I'm saying the police are not. They're doing their best. And I'm just worried that we're exposing them because they're confronted with a situation that is well-resourced, well-connected, and it has the firepower that can really create problems for all of us. We just have to capacitate the police to respond with the necessary firepower, if not beyond.
In terms of those that are in hospital, do any of them include minors? Do you know?
I don't have the ages. I can quickly check from the report that was sent this morning. If you don't mind, I can just check if... Yes. They say in Ward 12 there are 3 children. Their ages, 2 of them are 4 years. And 1 is 9. That's what we have. And in Ward 16, we have 1 female and 3 males. All are awake, breathing on their own. In Ward 20, we've got 1 female on oxygen, awake and talking. And there are 5 adults that were later admitted this morning. There's 1 that is under oxygen, and there's 1 that, as I said, unfortunately passed on. And those that are with the hospital, the total amount and number is 11. That's the figures that I got this morning.
There are reports that
all right, so there we have it, the Premier of Gauteng, Panyanza Lesufi. We're just going to step out of this quite briefly if we can, because I think the bulk of what's being said has already been captured correctly, and the Premier will, I imagine, rehash some of the answers that we were able to get for you. But perhaps a major takeaway now, Premier Panyanza Lesufi saying the death toll has now increased to 17. One other person sadly lost their lives. 4 other people are in a critical condition still in hospital. And yeah, quite clear, I suppose, not mincing his words, Panyanza Lesufi, saying law enforcement currently is simply incapacitated. They are unable to respond to the scourge of illegal mining that's gripped parts of the province and certainly this particular township. Once again, Nqobile Madlala is part of our team also here. She's much closer to where that leak took place. And Nqobile, you've spoken to families who've been affected by this, absolutely devastated in the wake of the loss of their loved ones.
Well, yes, we have indeed spoken to some of the families that have been affected. But where we are, Ayanda, is apparently from what we have heard from the community, this is where it happened. This is where the gas basically was cut by some of the illegal miners. You'll see there behind me, there is some of the water that we believe that was being used, of course, to wash some of that gold sand, as you can see behind me. We're going to try and show you where it all happened because the bystanders were speaking to us, even though they fear for their lives, saying that they cannot expose more details. But it is in our understanding that the gas was supposed to create a working space. So what you see there is what they used to wash. So the gas was supposed to be cut off and used with some steel that they use inside it, which was going to be used. Now, these are some of the gases. As you can see, there's still some of the remains from there. The community says they came in, they tried to close these gases, and if you are here, you can already still smell the stench of the gas. A lot of people that are around here have been coughing. You will notice as well that I have my mask on because you can still smell it. It's still very much in the air. A lot of people have been telling us that as far as 200 meters away, you could smell it. A woman was just telling us that because of that, she was coughing non-stop over the night, and she said that they then woke up to come here and see what had happened. We are being told by the community that the 3 gentlemen that were in this area or were in this place that lived here passed away, and as a result they were here to also assist to try and get those bodies out when the community realized that the incident, of course, took place here. Some of the people that live nearest to this area are the people that are mostly affected, so they have lost quite a number of people. So I'm going to come close. We did speak to the lady much earlier on, and Mama, I understand ukuthi ungomunye wabantu aba affectekile. Mhlambe nje mawungasichazela ukuthi kwenzakaleni mangabe nilele nizwa lento enukayo noma ngenkathi bekubiza.
Hayi mina bangifonele ntambama ngo6 bengisendlini. Banje ukuthi gijimani ngapha abantu bayafa. Noma ngiphuma ngigijima ngizofika nto vela abantu bafile. Ofe umntwana nami firstborn yami una 19 years. Kufana makoto wami. Izolo. Noma ntifike ngithatha vela abantu bashonile abasekho.
Ngiya-understand ukuthi nomkhonyana wakho naye ungomunye wabantu akade ekhona lapha. Ungasitshela nje kancane ngaye mama.
Umntwana nami namakoto wami bashonile. Lo munye umzukulu wami naye ushonile.
Umzukulu beneminyaka mama.
Imali bitika mtukulu. Luigi. Una 48.
Manje mama ilona lupho season elidingayo manje njengoba sekwenzekele lento eyenzakalela.
Athini?
Ilona lipho season mama endingayo. Nibatla thuso.
Waru wangamfuna yini?
Mina nikomo ngincede kumuntu fambisela vone yana bukaya nalahla kaya. Nikombe kumuntu mfuna into mshoshesho. Ngincede ngihamba nabantu bami ngizonikhaya ekhaya. Code ngincede kakhulu.
Yabona sezwe mama siyaxolisa ngokukwehlekela. Wena baba ulahlekelwe ingane yakho nawe angithi awusichazele nje kwenzakaleni.
La izola ngu6 la besifesi basizimbawo lapha sifuna water besifuna upheka. Manje sithwa sizwa into ngathi ihasi. Sele hasi beyenzekela la kumakhelwane. Sekuphumile umunye umfana wami la athi ayo ochitha amanzi. Loka ube lo mfana uyawa phansi uyaphuma gazi ngela ke siphumulo siyaphuma thina sifuna ubheka ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzekelane lo uphumayo uyawa phansi lo uphumayo uyawa phansi lo uphumayo uyawa phansi mina insele ngiyi1 ngigijimile ubhuti wami ushonile umfana wami ushonile umakoti wami usesibhedlela umfana wami anyazi ukuthi kwenzekelani asimtholi asazi ukuthi maybe ushonile naye or kwenzekelani la duze ngihleli nabangana kuphela sengifuna ukuthi maybe nginganceda ukuthi singabahambisa emakhaya labantu or kanjani.
I mean, I know that you have been speaking to some of the community here, and I mean, the question really is, how do you help in this incident?
It's a very difficult thing that has occurred here, and even in terms of assisting, we're just going to speak to officials and see where we can get help and have these people, whether exported home. We'll just see. We don't know yet what is that. So, but the mayor of the city, I think, will be in a better position to pronounce whether he's going to do what action is going to be taken.
And I mean, you can see the situation here. You can already see the sand behind you. You can see the stuff that is used, essentially. So you can see that there is obviously some work that takes place here. Yeah,
definitely. It looks more of a shaft of illegal mine workers, and it has been a problem in the country, and it's a very serious one. Looking at it now, I still don't understand why the police hasn't been barricaded this place, hasn't taken those cylinders that we saw now, and that these are the cylinders that actually took the lives of those people. And I'm also told by community members that a 1-month baby is still in hospital, so we're just hoping that the child might survive. But looking at the entire place, it's terrible. The mine working is forever taking place.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Well, that community, just detailing what happened here, you can hear from the two families that are affected. Children, families, friends, brothers, people have lost a lot here, and really what they're asking for is how do they take their families home. Most of the ones that we have spoken to are from Mozambique, and they're saying this is just devastating, it's difficult, they want to take their families home. And of course they're preparing for that, but it was all unplanned. It is all very just difficult, as you can see there, some of them just breaking apart. You can see it's such a difficult moment. They are the neighbors to this illegal mining that takes place. This is where the gas was essentially, where it was opened. He says everybody who walked out was bleeding and falling, and they would faint. And so just reliving the trauma. That's one of the affected families.
Why you guys stop in that? Why you guys stop in that? What I'm a voice I can okay, now Vantavanga Gavashuni and Galenda Pendu. Nesbuelongan. And the small ones it is Nesbuelongan. Govan Vashuni. One kilo Mushuni. Angazutin Yotin. So Salama police, I'm back keeping young little in Kukuin. For myself, a man. So we are want to ever reaching Alamapendo in a family to Ambi. So we are in it. What am I points again now? Mabachi was at a 50 run of Pakistan. What's another 50 run of Pakistan? Why? Many government is important to just 7. Why listen to the one Jerusalem, my equivalent of Penduga? Marala Jerusalem, Angelo, why? What do I get now? So if I'm a points, I want a manga. It was I'm sure you was some to say, Mama stop then. Or as full of niggas all it do today, so no one. Man, some fool alumni as well it do. Some fool alumni as well it do today.
Angry community there.
I want to have Marabona, why peace now? Pendo was so mad, why will pose to the family to show me. As I fool let to them a penduala. Satella, I got it, Satella.
an angry community member, just with a very valid point there. They're saying that they want to put a stop to the illegal mining that's taking place here, referring it to the pendugas. And the pendugas, of course, are what is being used, the tanks are what's being used for to clean that gold sand. And they are angry. They're saying that the community is angry. They do not want what is taking place here, but they're asking that the police actually take charge and that they make sure that they clean this illegal mining that's taking place here. They're saying that in the nearby areas, none of this take place, but it's happening here. And of course, they have lost some of their family members. He specifically has lost his uncle, and he's saying this is due to the fact that there's illegal mining and there are kids that are going to suffer because of what has taken place here, and they just want to put an end to it.
Heartbreak turned to anger in that community in Boksburg there this morning. Nqobile, we've heard just moments ago from Gauteng Premier Panyanza Lesufi that the death toll is now at 17. It has increased, another life being lost in this gas leak. Ayanda, as we round off our rolling coverage here on the AM report, your parting shot from where you are.
It's difficult to put words to it, Michelle, because sadly, in a country like ours, scenes like these are all too familiar. And I suppose as many more people take in what's taken place here, many others are asking the question, when will we be back here? The government saying all the right things, the Premier admitting unequivocally, quite frankly, it's taken it a step further, outside of admitting that law enforcement has fallen short. He's called for an absolute overhaul of just how government responds to illegal mining, which we now understand is what actually underpinned this absolute tragedy. So hopefully that will go a long way in ensuring no other family has to go through the kind of pain that the families that Nqobile has spoken to, who I imagine simply cannot see a way forward, given just the extent of the loss that they're suffering this morning.
More bizarre still, Panyanza Lesufi in that media briefing there on the scene just a short while ago, saying that, and very honestly and openly saying that the issue of illegal mining, which as you mentioned to Mayanda, is not a news story. He says it is completely out of government's hands. He says government just cannot compare and compete with the kind of firepower at the disposal of illegal miners. Plenty of questions being asked this morning about how this could have been avoided. But it is the big developing story that we are tracking for you this morning here on 405. There is so much heartbreak taking place in that community in Boksburg. This gas leak, nitrate oxide, resulting in the deaths of, now we know, 17 people. Many, many more are still recovering in hospital this morning. The Gauteng Premier telling us that several of those people are in a critical condition. He described a gruesome scene last night when he was in that community into the early hours of this morning, where he says the bodies were scattered all over as people tried to get away, as they tried to run away from the sphere of this gas leak, trying to get away from it. And that's where their bodies were found by pathology services. Our team will be on the ground throughout the day, covering the story as it continues to develop. Pathology services, firefighters, police are all still on the scene as they try to get to the bottom of what happened.